emotional response out of me.
Yeah.
And so one of the top.
No,
Sorry.
go ahead. Go ahead.
I'd say so. Just could name a few, but there's one in particular that I asked Mikey, who had never seen it before, to watch. So he's coming with fresh eyes. It's this movie came out in 2009 called Enter the Void, directed by Gaspar Noé.
I'm not even gonna try and pronounce the fella's name. I'll
And
tell you
so-
that. I got too much respect for the guy.
And so this came out in 2009. The reason I wanted to see it when it came out was because in 2002, whenever I was a junior in high school, I went, and I think Brandon was actually with me. We went to go see. I wanted to see this movie called Irreversible that was playing at the Magnolia, which people walked out of that movie. It's a reverse chronological movie, right? It's like every scene that's done it starts at the end of the movie. It's kind of like Memento,
Okay, yes.
in a way. And
Yes.
every scene it's going backwards in time.
Yeah.
But the way the director does
The beginning
visuals,
of the movie is the end of the movie.
exactly. But the way he does this camera
walk
work
it
and
back,
everything,
yeah.
like the beginning, some people might get motion sickness because the camera's spinning around
Yeah.
in ways that would make you nauseous. But it's the way he's doing the camera work the whole time. It's mirroring kind of the emotional state of the main character, or just the emotional state of the overall film itself, because
Yeah.
it goes from some very crazy tragic event working backwards, and in the middle of it, it's kind of the whole focal point is, I think, the longest rape scene in a movie. That people walked out of trust. It was. I don't know if I could watch it again.
That's a bit rough.
I don't know if I could watch it, but that's kind of a focal point of the film and why someone's going after trying to find the person who did it
got
to
you.
her.
Yeah.
So it's going backwards,
It's
and the ending is like in a peaceful, beautiful scenario. Sorry, it's just a spoiler alert, but I don't expect anyone to watch this movie.
No, nobody's gonna.
I don't expect anyone to watch this movie.
They're not. They're more than likely.
Irreversible, right? So because of that, and I was just blown away. It was offensive, but I'm like, I'm curious to see what movie this guy does next. So Enter the Void, that came out, and it's such a head trip. It's literally a trip in as far as his camera work and cinematography, the way he does things. It's as though he's trying to make you literally feel or experience the whole intent or what the whole message or meaning is.
Yeah.
And so this one is, spoiler alert, I guess, but summary, it's basically what would it be like if you died while you were on DMT. So if you died while you're taking drug DMT, it affects the pineal gland and basically gives you a near-death experience, or gives you the experience of death or closest thing to it without dying.
Yeah.
So if you are having an out-of-body death experience and then you die, just being in that
Suspended,
state.
yeah.
And so basically it's the main character, you're behind, he never even shows his face except for in the mirror.
I was gonna say that, and then too, there's a scene on like the balcony where it's a little bit further back than they normally show him, and he looks to the side, and you can kind of see like the side of his face.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, no, it definitely, like, it was early on. I recognized like this isn't like any movie that I've seen film before.
Yeah.
It was a totally different take on something, and it was at first, it wasn't really, to me, it wasn't tough to watch at first. The very beginning of it and everything.
It's about a 3-hour movie.
Yeah, I caught on to like the concept, kind of quick.
Yeah.
But then like whenever it got to the end, some of it I feel like there's some parts that's where movies can like go wrong in a sense, because it's like when you try and go too far into showing like what that must be like, or a perspective of a certain situation. Like, for instance, I don't necessarily want to see a movie about Helen Keller from her point of view.
Yeah, you don't, but at the same time, if it existed, I would want to watch it.
But it would be what would that movie be? Just a black. You'd have to vibrate seats or something to be able to, because she was dumb, deaf, and blind.
It's funny you say that, because
so she would have. You would have to. What does that movie even look like if it's. So I don't mean to hate on Helen Keller. or anything like that. But yeah, so I mean, I don't know. I just feel like there's a point where
It's funny you say that though, because this director had a movie he made called Love, right? So there's a lot of scenes in movies. It's almost like I wouldn't personally do gratuitous sex and things like that. I don't get why, some filmmakers feel the need. But again, I think he wants to really shock people a lot. He wants to like jar them.
Mm-hmm.
But he had this movie Love that came out after this, which is basically unrated, but it had like unsimulated sex in it. So it was basically like a film that was porn also. But it was shown in some theaters. I'm pretty sure he had I don't even know where they had this, but he had it shot in 3D to where whenever the dude, whatever, it would be in 3D. Like no. Yeah, he's really about shocking and jarring you, and he knows that sex and violence obviously are ways to do it. So,
oh my God.
And that's why I wouldn't ever do that. But at the same time, just to experience and see someone who's doing things with the skill that in the craftsmanship that he has. Just because I love movies so much, I have to watch it.
Yeah, but as far as most people being able, like you said, a lot of people aren't going to watch those movies. But as far as Enter the Void goes, it really is it is a one of a kind movie because it's the closest thing I can think of that I've seen that goes towards showing what it would be like if you pass away for like that, because some people think when you pass away that you go to heaven or you go to hell or you go to purgatory or some type of whatever your religion is, you go somewhere. This is more or less showing like reincarnation in a way.
Yeah.
At the end, it's like really more or less showing
like he's a free floating spirit for a while, and then if you interpret it that he's being reincarnated.
Exactly. It looks awfully a lot like they're almost showing how the process of life could begin again or something at one point. But either way, it's the only movie I've seen that tries to really, show what that might look like or what that experience would be like versus just, other movies that would allude to it, by things where somebody dies and they come back and remember something and it's like, oh, that's that guy.
It's like, no, if you were free floating spirit,
this
and
is
you
what
were
it would
moving
look
through
like.
walls, and you were flying, and
getting to see people grieving over the situation, and like
the cool thing is about the place because he filmed it in Tokyo, just because of how crazy the lighting is, and just how insane to imagine flying around night in Tokyo as a spirit with the lights and just the architecture. And so he filmed it there, and it is definitely a trip.
Absolutely. No, and I mean it is. I think it's the thing. The thing I think you should take away from movies like that, or the other ones you might mention, is you have to do the best you can to, like, while it might not be a movie you like, do the best you can to just try and watch the movie from, like you said, what is this person, try and get into the perspective that they're trying to put
Think of it as an art installation almost.
Exactly.
Like,
don't look at it like
trying to get me to experience and feel from this, because he's the kind of director in, like, I think his maybe first main film called I Stand Alone, or at least the first wide released one, which is, the whole plot is disturbing. It's
I Stand Alone?
Right. Yeah, I would say just don't even try and watch it.
Okay.
He's some butcher who has, I think, like a slow daughter, and he like rapes her, and
good Lord.
And then there's some other weird stuff, and it's just like, why? And
talking about grape beyond a lot of this is where we're done mentioning.
Through it, there's a warning flashes up where it says you might want to leave the theater now if you are easily offended, and it has like this brutal scene where this person's killed. Like, but he does it, like
it
flashing.
Says that?
Yeah, literally, like it flashes up on the screen. But the director did so. If you see that, you kind of see what he does, because the Enter the Void starts with a bunch of flashing lights. So he's trying to elicit a response physically out of you.
Yeah, and
it's cool because it starts with Enter, the whole movie happens, and then ends with the Void.
Yep.
And I just have to the newest movie he made called Vortex, which is. Actually, you could show it to your kids. It's PG level movie, which is crazy, but I couldn't even get through it. It's literally about this old couple and it has basically the camera's cutting, I guess, the split screen, and it's following around this old retired man and wife and just what they do throughout their day. And just imagine what an old person who's kind of poor and has not much going on in life, how slow and depressing their days might be. It's literally 2.5 or 3 hours
of just that
of like them getting up, going to the bathroom,
opening a can of beans, heating them up.
And it's funny because the way he does that starts with the credits rolling up the screen, incredibly slow.
Oh god,
so slow. You're like, how long is it gonna be for this movie to start? But then you kind of get the point that how uneventful and how life gets for most towards the end of life, how it's just a drag of existence for a lot of people. At least that's the way he presents it.
Yeah.
And just it starts off with that way, and it's gotta be arguably the slowest, most uninteresting movie you could imagine. But
really?
It's at the same time
Vortex,
it's called Vortex.
Wow.
And at the same time, that's exactly what he's wanting to do.
Yeah. No, and
it's the thing about knowing the director is like he knows what he's doing and exactly how boring and unwatchable this is.
Well, and that's I mean, I know we're kind of skipping around, but why not? That's the movie Enemy. I'm sorry. I know I'm just jumping into it.
No, jump into it.
I know I'm just jumping around and saying shit here, but it's like you have a more obscure, like your movies are way more obscure. But the ones I know about are still, it's like the majority of the population is never going to watch Enemy or hear about it even.
And
they're
even
not
though
even
that's
going to know
Jake
about
Gyllenhaal in it, they still don't know about it. And Dennis Villeneuve directed
Exactly. And that was a movie that I watched, and it was just like, it was incredible. It was like, I'm watching the movie, I'm like, all right, this is a good movie. Like, it had me pretty, hooked, and then the ending happens, and I'm just like, what the fuck just happened? And I didn't know anybody who'd seen this movie. I didn't understand the movie. And then
one of the other episodes, like, who can I talk to about
who
this?
do I talk to? So, it's like those are movies that it's like they're worth giving a chance to because, once you can just like kind of get off down that, go down that road and just like allow yourself to just suspend all judgment and suspend your, opinions and just like let the movie go and
do your best to not let yourself be offended in the way that they're trying to do.
Yes.
Go in there as best you can with as objective thinking, okay, I want to just see what they're trying to accomplish. And if what they're trying to accomplish is to get people to walk out, I'm not gonna fall for that.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm fucking stamped.
And then I'm like, man, maybe I should have just walked out.
Yeah.
Right? But
no.
And so
So speaking of movie you should have walked out of, I went and saw the movie Fighting for whatever reason.
Fighting.
Yeah, exactly. It was me and my buddy went and saw it.
Is that in theaters right now?
No, absolutely not. It was years ago, and I had these like a voucher to the movie theater. It was Keystone in Richardson or whatever.
Okay.
And it was, for whatever reason, I had a voucher, and me and my buddy went, and we were absolutely stoned, and we watched this whole movie, and pretty much looked at each other at the end of it, and we were just like, what the fuck did we just watch?
When you're high and something is still uninteresting or unentertaining, that it's pretty bad.
Dude, it was awful, because we literally looked at each other, and we were just like, the fuck was this, man? It was the wackest movie. It had no like... Fighting. Yeah, it was just like about. It's like it was almost like a breakdance movie meets like a fight, like trying to
breakdance fighting.
Yeah, it was just it was stupid. And then my sister calls me.
Spin-off.
What was hilarious is my sister called me like,
"Hey, did you see his great movie Fighting?"
No,
and that's when I stopped talking to my sister.
No, so my sister called me like a week or so later and was like, chatting me up, whatever. And she's like, "Hey," she was like, I know you see a lot of movies and that. She was like, don't go see that new movie, Fighting. And I was like, what? She was like, Fighting? And I was like, what are you, Fighting? What is that? And then she starts telling me about it, and then I realized, I'm like, I
blocked that memory out.
Yeah, and then I realized,
I had forgotten, and thank you for reminding me.
I ended up calling my boy, and I was like, yo, dude, I'm like, my sister thought that movie was shit too. So
that's funny.
There are some genuine movies out there.